Good evening. Charles Johnson is a novelist, essayist, literary scholar, philosopher, cartoonist, screenwriter, and professor emeritus at the University of Washington. He's also a really good guy, and he was signed up to do our keynote speech this year down in Sodo, and since that got canceled, he's agreed to do a brief Q&A with me, which I'm going to share with you now. I have to say we had some technical difficulties, and so the images of Charles that you'll see are ones taken from his past rather than him speaking. You'll just hear his voice, and of course, you'll be able to see me. Thank you very much to Dr. Johnson for participating in this, and thank you very much, supporters of Hugo House. We really appreciate this, and please enjoy.
I'm learning something every day at 72 years old. So, you know, an old dog can learn new tricks.
Pretty soon you're going to be old enough to run for president.
I don't think I will ever do that in this lifetime. It is a contact sport, and I don't think I could last too long on the football field.
Well, what would it be like, though? I mean, they tried it in Czech Republic, right? Václav Havel, the poet, the playwright. Right? What would it be like if the United States had a poet or a philosopher as president? What do you think that would look like?
You know why I don't think that could happen? And I'll tell you why. I think that America has, for a very long time, been anti-intellectual and distrustful of intellectuals. You know, those pointy-headed intellectuals that Spiro Agnew talked about. When George Bush was running, the question came up, oh, is he the kind of guy I could sit down in a bar and have a beer with? You know, there's that, ever since Jefferson, there's been that common man priority, you know, the common man touch, as opposed to the elite, effete Europeans, right, in Jefferson's time. So this goes back a long, long way. I don't know if you could do it here. It's a more European thing.
Of course, poetics is, of course, one of the great tomes of the Western canon. Did he write a volume on comedy and it was lost to history?
I wrote a story about that, actually, called Idols of the Cave, and in my collection, Nighthawks, where soldiers in Afghanistan discover it. Oh, wow, yes. Good book. I've seen that book. They discovered the manuscript, but it's been translated into Arabic because that's what happened after the fall of the Roman Empire. So much history was, everything was lost during the Dark Ages. People were not literate, but the Muslims translated Aristotle and really responded critically to him. And then when the time was right, those works were translated back into the West, which made it possible for Thomas Aquinas to use Aristotelian logic for his Summa Theologica.
You started as a cartoonist, really, and then, of course, you do many disciplines, but surely fiction is one of them. Yeah. What is that? How do you explain the pathways in your brain to someone like me?
Well, I mean, you know, it's all coming from the same source, which is the love of art. It doesn't matter. I started publishing in '65 when I was 17 years old. My first 3 stories in my high school newspaper, they've been in an anthology called First Words. They're reprinted there with first words by, you know, other writers in America. But for me, I was passionately devoted to drawing for 7 years. But I love to read, obviously, literature too, novels and stories, because that fed my imagination. As a political cartoonist, as a panel cartoonist, right? All of these arts, people don't realize that they overlap and blend together. So, you know, it's like you might wake up one day and want to do a sonnet. The next day you might wake up and say, you know, I've got some ideas about the mind-body problem. Let me do an essay. Or you make up another day and say, you know, I got a novel. Let me get back to that novel I've been working on for 2 or 3 years, right? So it's people put you in categories, unfortunately. Oh, he's a novelist. That's what he does. Or he's a poet. No, it's not like that. The creative spirit is global, I think, within a human life.
No, I think that's really great. We do, and in a sense, we sort of allow ourselves to be corralled, right? I mean, that it's sort of this passive aggressive nature that we have with ourselves. It's like, oh, okay, you're right. I am this, therefore I'll go stand over here. As
Yes,
opposed to saying, no, I'm going to define myself and I'll tell you what I'm going to be today.
exactly. Yeah, what I'm doing today. That's, you see, that's why I think it's important, and this is for the Hugo House audience, not to lock yourself into the idea of being a writer. You get up and you create. Sometimes it's with words, maybe. Sometimes it's with images, maybe, that you draw. Don't lock yourself into this idea, oh, this is what a writer does. That's what I must do. That's BS. That'll shut you down. You know, somebody will say, well, you got an award for your last novel. You're a novelist. You know, so you just write novels from now on. No, sorry, it doesn't work that way. I might have a short story that I want to do, or an essay that I want to do. The whole thing is about being free. And that's what the creative process allows you to be. I'll show you a book. I'm going to hold it up. Can you see this?
I can see that. John Gardner on Writers and Writing.
Yep. I wrote the introduction. This is 1994. This is a book that was published posthumously after John passed away, because he passed away in 1982. These are his writings about writing and about writers. Well, in my introduction, I point out that in 1973, when I first started working with Gardner, I interviewed him for a little newspaper in Southern Illinois. I was a young journalist then. And he made a quote in 73 that it might be interesting to talk about now. I'm going to read it for you. I think a certain kind of America is doomed, though something greater may be coming. The novelist, and only the novelist, thrives on breakdown, because that's the moment when you can analyze the beauty of the values that are falling and rising. The end of a great civilization, said Gardner, is always a great moment for fiction. When the old England at the end of the 19th century fell, along came Dickens. When Russia fell apart, along came Tolstoy. One looks forward to the fall of great civilization because it gives us great art.
That's quite brilliant, actually.
And that was 1973,
Yeah.
right? So we've been falling apart for a long time.
Yeah. But no, that is interesting that the, and that's true, making sense out of the cacophony, the noise that's happening right now will ultimately fall to, the poets in whatever medium, right?
That's right. No, that's absolutely true. So, we were corresponding earlier in email about, well, what shall we talk about during this session? And you were thinking about a lot of stuff related to COVID-19, right? To the virus. There are stories right now being generated every minute around the globe because of the upending of our lives because of this virus. We're going to see more novels, more poems, more short stories, more essays, more analysis, more historical, critiques coming out of this particular moment. So yeah, I think we should be open to that. I don't write a novel just to write a novel. I write a novel as if it's the last thing I'm ever going to do. And when I go to put it in the mail at the PO, to send to my agent, I might get hit by a car. And that's it. Well, my kids will look at that when it comes out and they'll say, oh, that's Dad's last will and testament in language. It's his best thought, his best feeling. This is what he had to say. So when I wrote my 7th novel, I spent 9 months. Then I realized how important this is. My 2nd novel published, which was number 8, called Oxfording Tale, I spent 5 years on. And then Middle Passage, 6 years on. And then Dreamer, 7 years on. Because I realized what's at stake with what we're doing here. It really matters.
I wanted to add, can you tell us a little bit? I know you have a book coming out. I wonder if first you could share with us a little bit about Grand,
Yeah.
which is this great A Grandparent's Wisdom for a Happy Life. There you
That's
go.
the
Nice
book.
cover. I love it.
This book started as an essay that I wrote for Third Act magazine, which is published here in the Northwest in Seattle. It's for senior citizens. And I was asked, well, what would you say to your grandson as advice? And I thought about it for a moment and I said, okay, 10 points. 10 points I would make to him about what he should be thinking about. The first point is know thyself. Okay, that's where we're going to start. So I looked at that essay, people liked it, and so I passed it by a former editor of mine at Scribner, John Glenn, who has his own imprint now at Hanover Square Press at Houghton Mifflin. And he took it. And I wrote that last fall, basically. It was from somewhere around September to December, I wrote the book.
And how do you feel about it? Is it, I think you're pleased with the result, huh?
I am very pleased with the result because this was a labor of love. Because, you know, I wouldn't lie to my grandson about life. I'll give you a hint of what, there's 10 points. There are 10 chapters. The first one is Know Thyself. The second one is Life is not personal, permanent, or perfect. The third chapter is Tat Tvam Asi, which is Sanskrit, which means you are that. The third one, fourth chapter is The Three Dimensions of a Complete Life. That's the title of a speech by Martin Luther King Jr. Chapter 5, Suffering is Voluntary or Optional. 6, Experience Something Beautiful Every Day. 7, Open Mouth, Already a Mistake. 8, You are already perfect and whole, but. 9, Chapter 9, Never Stop Learning. Chapter 10, To Love is to Live. Mm-hmm. And I talk a lot about other things within the context of these, 10 points.
Of course. Well, I'm looking forward to reading it, and I'm sure all of your fans are as well. I hope it does very well. You've been a real asset, of course, to the literary community here in Seattle for years and years, teaching some of the great writers of the Northwest, University of Washington, and now devoting yourself to. I think that it's fabulous that your grandson has become such a font of creativity for you with these the new graphic novel series, and now, of course, this new book that you've got. And
hang on. All right, here. The Emory Jones books are coming out from Chatwin Books in mid-July. These are the first two.
Oh, nice.
I did the illustrations. I did them with my daughter. And we're going to offer the first book, Bending Time, to kids who are stuck at home with no books for them to read, free. We're going to give this one away free. And then the other two, and the first one will be in a boxed set this July. So
that's fabulous.
It's a creative household. It's like my daughter is a conceptual artist.
Yeah.
A arts curator, Elishaba. And then the little guy, he just feels, he gets up every day. He draws, he writes. It's just what he feels natural to do because of the environment that he's in.
It's been a real pleasure to be able to spend some time hearing your thoughts. Do you have any ideas, any wisdom you might leave us with? No pressure, by the way.
Wisdom that I would leave us with. I do. Every day, be thankful for the gift of life. Because that's also, the gift of life is an opportunity to create, which is giving a gift to others through your work.
I like it a lot. And write every book as if it were your last, I think, huh?
I really do. Yeah, I feel that deeply.